The moment at my parents' 35th anniversary dinner when my dad, Brian, slides a thick envelope across the polished mahogany table to my sister, Madison, instead of me. His words echo in the suddenly silent dining room. "We gave your wedding fund to Madison. She and Dylan deserve it more." Mom nods, her smile tight and affirming, while Madison beams, a triumphant glint in her eyes. I just sit there frozen. My fiancé, Caleb, is beside me, his hand finding mine under the table, but it feels a world away. 27 years of being the consolation prize daughter comes crashing down on me in a single brutal moment. The $20,000 I'd been counting on for our wedding gone. Madison's smug smile tells me everything I need to know. This was planned. I don't cry. I can't. I just look at Caleb, my vision blurring at the edges. The silence stretches, thick and suffocating. Dad clears his throat, leaning back in his leather chair. The creak of it is the only sound. He's wearing that expression I know so well, the one that says he's about to deliver a lecture disguised as fatherly wisdom. "Logan, you have to understand our position," he begins, his voice laced with that familiar, condescending tone. "Madison graduated with top honors. She's a senior vice president. She has worked incredibly hard to build a real career." Madison straightens her posture, practically glowing under the praise. She's wearing a silk blouse that probably costs more than my rent. Everything about her screams success, from her perfect manicure to the designer watch on her wrist. "And Dylan," Dad continues, gesturing to Madison's fiancé, who sits beside her looking insufferably pleased with himself, is a top luxury real estate developer. They're a power couple. They're building an empire together. This wedding, this money is an investment in their future. A solid investment. Then he turns his gaze to me and I feel my stomach clench. Here it comes. The part where he tears my life down to justify their decision. "You're a freelance muralist," he says, the words dripping with disappointment. "It's a lovely hobby, sweetheart, but it's not stable. It's not a career you can build a future on." Mom chimes in, setting her wine glass down with a sharp click. "We've watched you struggle, Logan. Asking for help with bills, patching together one job to the next. We can't throw good money after bad." The phrase hits me like a slap. Throw good money after bad. As if my life, my art, my relationship with the man I love is nothing more than a poor investment strategy. A losing stock he's finally decided to cut from his portfolio. My mother's critique then pivots to the man sitting beside me, his hand still holding mine. "And Caleb seems like a nice young man," Kimberly says, her tone polite but dismissive. "But we don't really know what he does, do we? He's always so vague." "A logistics consultant, I believe he said?" It hardly inspires confidence. I turn to look at Caleb and for a second I see him through their eyes. He's wearing a simple sweater and jeans, his hair a little messy from the drive over. He never talks about his job. In the 3 years we've been together he's always just said he works in logistics and I never pressed him for more. The truth is his humility was a relief. My last boyfriend was a wealthy banker who constantly held his money over my head. He'd critique my art, calling it a cute little project, and then buy me expensive gifts to remind me who had the real power. When I met Caleb, his lack of interest in money felt like a safe harbor. He loved my work, celebrated my commissions, and never once made me feel like my passion was less than. I respected his privacy about his job because I thought it was modesty, a quiet confidence that didn't need a fancy title. Now I wonder if my parents are right. If there's something he's been hiding. "The truth is, Logan," my dad says, his voice softening into that faux sympathetic tone that hurts more than anger, "we've watched you make one poor financial decision after another. We don't want to enable you. Giving you $20,000 feels like enabling." Madison leans forward, her 2-carat diamond engagement ring catching the light. "It's about responsibility, Logan. I have a 5-year plan. A retirement portfolio. Dylan and I are building something that will last." The implication hangs in the air, thick as smoke. I am the irresponsible one. The flighty artist who can't be trusted. The daughter who fell for a man with a vague, unimpressive job. Then my father delivers the final, devastating blow. He looks at my mother, a silent, grim agreement passing between them. "It's more than just the money," he says, his voice low. "We've also used the house as collateral." The words don't register at first. "What?" I ask, my voice a whisper. "We took out a second mortgage on the house," he clarifies, refusing to meet my eyes. "To help Madison and Dylan with the down payment on their new luxury condo. They needed a significant injection of capital to secure the property." The floor drops out from under me. Not just my wedding fund. Our home. The house I grew up in, with the pencil marks on the doorframe measuring my height, was now a gamble on my sister's real estate venture. The tension in the room is suffocating. Madison and Dylan are practically vibrating with self-satisfaction, while I feel like I'm drowning. My childhood home, my financial future, all of it sacrificed on the altar of my sister's success. It's then that Caleb, who has absorbed every single insult with a disturbing and unnatural calm, finally moves. He slowly stands up, the legs of his chair scraping against the hardwood floor with deliberate precision. The sound cuts through the tension like a knife. Every eye in the room snaps to him. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out his phone, his movements measured and calm. He doesn't look at my parents or my sister. He looks directly at me. "Logan," he asks, his voice steady. "Should I tell them what I do for a living?" The question hangs in the air and I realize with a jolt that I don't actually know the answer. Not really. What do you mean? I whisper, my voice trembling. He turns his phone around, the screen glowing in the dim light. I see a sleek, professional website. At the top, in bold letters, it says Helios Innovations. And below it, a picture of Caleb in a sharp, tailored suit, looking every bit the powerful executive. Founder and Chief Executive Officer, he says simply, his voice carrying a quiet authority I've never heard before. My family stares, utterly dumbfounded. I started Helios Innovations in my garage 6 years ago. Caleb continues, his tone conversational. We design and implement sustainable energy solutions for major municipalities and corporations. He scrolls through the site showing us articles, press releases, photos of him shaking hands with governors and speaking at global conferences. Madison's face has gone completely white, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. Dylan looks like he's been punched in the gut. My father's hand is frozen halfway to his wine glass. We just closed our latest round of funding last month, Caleb says, swiping to a Forbes article. The headline is splashed across the screen, next to his picture. Helios Innovations, the $95 million startup revolutionizing green energy. $95 million. The number doesn't seem real. The man I love, the quiet, unassuming man who helps me stretch canvases and thinks my paint-splattered clothes are beautiful, runs a $95 million company. My father starts to make a stuttering sound, trying to form words that won't come. His earlier comments about Caleb's vague job now sound breathtakingly foolish, and I can see the mortifying realization dawning on his face. The power dynamic in the room hasn't just shifted. It has been completely obliterated. As my family reels from that first explosion, Caleb calmly prepares to detonate the second. His expression is neutral, but I can see a flicker of something in his eyes. Not malice, but a kind of surgical precision. He's not just revealing secrets, he's unwinding a trap they set for themselves. He turns his attention to Dylan, who is still staring at the phone with slack-jawed disbelief. It's funny, Caleb says, his tone light. A small company just popped up on our acquisition radar. An old-school energy firm struggling a bit. They own some key land parcels we're interested in for a new solar array. We're in the final stages of acquiring them. He pauses for a beat. I believe the firm is called Apex Power and Grid. Dylan's head snaps up. The color drains from his face. I can practically see the blood roaring in his ears. That's the company I'm partnering with for the Shoreline condo project, he stammers. We're in the middle of negotiating the land use rights. Caleb nods slowly. Well, that's going to be awkward. Our first act as the new owners will be to terminate all existing third-party development contracts on that land. The environmental impact is just too high for our brand. The news lands like a death sentence. Dylan's flagship project, the one my parents just mortgaged their house for, is dead in the water. Without that land deal, his entire development is worthless. Then Caleb turns his calm, measured gaze to my father. Brian, he says, and the use of his first name is like a gunshot in the silent room. I couldn't help but overhear you talking about your investment portfolio last Christmas. If I recall, you mentioned moving a significant portion of your retirement savings into a promising regional energy firm. On a hot tip, I believe you said. My father looks like he's going to be sick. My mother grips his arm, her knuckles white. Yes, Caleb continues, his voice soft but relentless. A hot tip from Dylan. About Apex Power and Grid. The silence that follows is absolute. The pieces click into place with horrifying clarity. Not only have they given my sister the money for her wedding, not only have they mortgaged their home for her fiancé's doomed project, but my father has also gambled his own retirement on the same bad bet. Dylan's career and my father's entire financial future are now held in the palm of the man they just dismissed as a poor, ambitionless logistics consultant. They didn't just insult him. They handed him the keys to their own ruin. The room descends into absolute chaos. My father lurches forward, knocking over a water glass. Wait, Caleb, son, there's been a terrible misunderstanding. He pleads, his voice cracking. My mother starts crying, a desperate, hiccuping sound. We had no idea. We are so sorry. Madison is just staring, her face a mask of horror, whispering, no, 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 over and over again. Dylan is frantically trying to backtrack, stammering about partnership opportunities and mutual interests, his words a pathetic, jumbled mess. In the middle of this spectacular family meltdown, Caleb does something incredible. He completely ignores them. He turns his back on their frantic apologies and focuses his entire attention on me, creating a pocket of perfect stillness in the storm. He looks at me, his eyes full of a love so deep it takes my breath away. And he says, there's one more thing you should know. A few weeks ago I showed your portfolio to a friend of mine, an art collector who sits on the board at the museum. He was blown away. He pulls up an email on his phone and hands it to me. The subject line reads, Museum Commission Inquiry, Logan Hayes. I remember seeing it. I remember deleting it, thinking it was spam, another fake offer from a scammer. My eyes scanned the words. Six-figure commission. A 40-foot mural for the atrium of the new contemporary art wing. A solo exhibition in the new year. Real. This entire time while my family was telling me my art was a worthless hobby, the biggest opportunity of my life was sitting in my trash folder. This validation, this triumph, it has nothing to do with Caleb's money or his power. It's mine. It's for my work. My talent. My passion. Everything they just tried to shame me for. The noise of my family's panicked begging fades into a dull hum in the background. A profound sense of calm settles over me. The years of feeling small, of feeling like I had to apologize for who I am, it all just evaporates. I finally have my footing. I look up from the phone and meet Caleb's gaze. He smiles, a real gentle smile. He reaches out and takes my hand, his touch grounding me. The power in this room no longer belongs to my father or my sister or their money. It's mine. Caleb sees the strength returning to my eyes, and he asks the question that will define everything. Logan, what do you want to do? I look at my family, truly look at them. I see their shattered arrogance, their panicked faces, their desperate, grasping attempts to undo the damage. And I feel nothing. Not anger, not even pity. Just a quiet, sad finality. I don't want your money, I say, my voice clear and steady. I don't want revenge. What I want is something you've never been able to give me. I want respect. And that's not something you can buy back with apologies when you get caught. This relationship, I say, looking from my mother to my father, is broken. If you ever want to fix it, it has to be rebuilt on a new foundation. A real one. Then I turn to Caleb and we walk out of the dining room, leaving the wreckage of their choices behind us. We don't look back. The story flashes forward 6 months. Madison and Dylan's wedding was a small, tense affair at the local courthouse. Their luxury condo deal evaporated, and with it most of my father's retirement savings. Dylan's reputation took a massive hit, and they now live in a modest apartment, the dream of their empire, a bitter memory. My father, humbled and broken by his financial ruin, is a different man. He and my mother started going to therapy both individually and together. They were forced to confront the ugly truth of their favoritism and the damage it had caused. For me, life has been a blur of color and creation. The museum mural is the most challenging and exhilarating project of my career. Standing on the scaffolding high above the polished floor, bringing my vision to life on a massive scale, I've never felt more myself. My work is being celebrated, my talent recognized on its own terms. The final scene is at a quiet coffee shop. My parents asked to meet. It's awkward at first, the space between us filled with years of unspoken hurt. But then my dad asks me about my mural. Not about how much I was paid, but about my process, my inspiration. My mom tells me she saw a picture of it in the local paper and thought it was beautiful. They're trying. It's not perfect, but it's real. The painful crisis was the only thing that could have shattered the old, toxic dynamic and allowed something new to grow. Caleb and I built a life based on mutual respect and a love that had nothing to do with money. And my family finally learned that a person's worth isn't measured by their job title or their bank account. It's measured by their character.